And now, everyone, please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to your host, Holly Tharp.
So my name's Holly Tharp, and I am the Fine Arts Department Chair over in 3D Arts, Computer Animation and Game Art. And I want to welcome you guys. All the people from campus and online are joining us. Put your hands together for our panelists. I will be introducing them right now. This is Jayson Whitmore, Creative Director, Principal. We are Royale 2009 Hall of Fame inductee. Next to him is Dina Rodriguez. She is a hand lettering artist, 2010 DAD grad. Alex Menendez, owner, Instinct Films, 1990 film grad. And Kim Alpert, Director of Creative Tech, DCI-Artform, 2013 Hall of Fame inductee. Oh, there's barking. So right now, what I'm going to do is just start with Jayson and have them tell you guys just a little bit about themselves. So, Jayson.
So I am an executive creative director and partner of a company called We Are Royale. And I started the company 9 years ago. I've been in the industry now 17 years, so since Full Sail. And basically my company is a design, animation, digital, live action production studio, and built it up to have 2 studios. We have one in LA and one in Seattle, and we service primarily advertising agencies. We do a lot of commercials. So my living is based off of being creative every day, which is a pretty cool job to have. And not only do I get to be creative, but then I also have an incredible staff of really, really wonderful people. We have about 75 people at the company now, which is pretty big. And that's why I'm gray. So I'm originally from Elmira, New York, and came to Full Sail at, I was 96 through 99, and I took the recording arts, film and video, and digital media programs. So I have 3 degrees from here.
That's way more than me. Hi guys, I'm Dina Rodriguez. I am a full-time hand lettering artist. I run a business called Letter Shop, and that's Letter Shop spelled the cool way, like an old-fashioned ice creamy with 2 P's and an E. I also teach hand lettering on my website. I teach other people how to make a profit from their passion, being either a creative freelancer or who are also interested in learning hand lettering. And I'm super happy to be here, and I'm really excited to do this panel.
Awesome.
Short and sweet.
Hey everybody, my name is Alex Menendez. I own a company called Instinct Video and Film Productions, as well as a company called Delve Productions Incorporated. I graduated from here in 1990, which is like eons ago, but it's cool. So when I left here, I worked at a company in Fort Myers, Florida for about 7 years before I decided to go solo, and I started my company in 1997. What we do currently is a lot of, sounds kind of boring, it's commercial and corporate jobs. So it's not the big movies or that type of stuff, but the corporate industry, you can make a pretty decent living doing that sort of stuff. So I do that. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I transitioned over to still photography, working for some wire services. So I'm a contract photographer for the Associated Press, and I also shoot for Getty Images Sport, which enables me to follow my passion, which is sports. I've been able to shoot Super Bowls, just basically any type of sports that I wanted to shoot was what it enabled me to do, and I'm kind of in that field right now. So. Thanks for being here, and moving on.
I'm Kim Alpert, so I'm the Director of Creative Technology at DCI-Artform, which is basically a fancy creative director that does all stuff that's wired up and interactive and digital. I've been in advertising since leaving here in February of 2003. Variety of ways, in video, in interactive programming, in design, and UX. I'm also a working artist, so I produce and show my own pieces, as well as own a company called Make Amazing, where I collaborate with other individuals to bring different projects to life, and yeah, super stoked.
Thank you. So So we're going to get right into questions. I'm going to start with Dina, and we're going to ask, and all of you can answer, of course, she's going to lead. What are the pros and cons of being a freelance artist?
Okay, the pros is I'm my own boss. The cons is I have to find my own work. Definitely. It's really hard to be able to have that consistent flow, be able to schedule yourself, and just be able to be proactive. I take a different approach to getting clients. I don't believe in cold emailing, cold calling. It's all about promotion. I think my business is pretty much about 70% promotion and only about 30% actual hand lettering and production, which is needed. So that way the clients actually I'm attracting to contact me for work. So I think that's the best. I mean, it's the hardest part about being a freelancer is getting the jobs for sure. And then, I mean, the fact that I can be a night owl and work when I want, do what I want to be able to get what I need done. And also I just kind of hang out in my home studio and I don't really have to worry about traffic or morning commutes, or it's just me chilling with my 2 puppies in my office in Portland, just living the life.
Anybody else want to?
Yeah. The pros to owning your own business is that you can pretty much pick the jobs that you want to do. You're not working for somebody and you have an assignment given to you all the time, which is kind of cool because it lets you play a little bit more, lets you do a little bit more of your passion type projects. The bad side of being, freelance is that you've got to go out and you've got to hustle. You've got to sell the next job while you're currently working on this job. And that can get stressful at times, especially if you have a family. So, it's give and take. I've had opportunities to work for some other companies, and my personal choice was that I wanted to be basically a loner, a lone wolf. I wanted to do stuff myself. So it's a gamble. I mean, it's very hard in this industry. I've been in it over 30 years, and there's been some really, really good years, and there's been some really, really slow years. So, you just got to kind of figure out if you want to be freelance, if freelance is for you, and if it's some people it doesn't fit.
Just speaking as a owner of a company, it's not much different than freelance. It's just that you're dealing with a lot more people that work with you, and logistics and health insurance and pensions and who has a day off and who doesn't have a day off. So I was freelance for quite a long time, maybe 7 years, and I never thought I would start a company. It was definitely not something that interested me, but I did find an opportunity with 2 other business partners that I really, really enjoyed and liked a lot, and we all got married, basically. So we're happily married today, which is good. But I think what's interesting is that, like freelance, like with any business, I wake up every morning thinking that I could lose everything, and it's kind of scary. Because when you're dealing with such a massive studio with so many people that you take care of, I get the 2 a.m. like the world's ending wake up, and then a Xanax cures that, and I fall back asleep. But not to encourage that, but basically, you have to be on top of the ebb and flow of the company cash flow. You have to make sure that you're making enough money to be able to pay everybody, which is super important. And you're booking enough jobs, and that you're putting enough effort into making sure that you're getting the type of creative work that your studio wants. Because at the end of the day, you guys are the artists, and you don't want to be doing work that you don't want to be doing. We always want to constantly be challenged. So that's my job, is to go out and figure out the innovative, really cool, juicy work for everybody, and nobody needs to know the other stuff and the logistics of how I get that work. So it's very complicated, and making, like you said, there's ups and downs every year, and it's like you go through winning cycles. You're winning, you feel on top of the world, you feel invincible, and then you lose a bunch of jobs, and then you think, oh, are we in trouble? And then you start winning again, and you're like, no, I'm not in trouble, and then you start losing it, and then it's this manic, But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think one of the reasons why I started the studio was to provide an environment that was healthy and creative for the employees, because this industry can be really tough. You can work crazy hours and not get compensated for that. So at my studio, we really try to focus on healthy work lifestyle and make sure that we're not working you too hard. We actually have a policy at the studio to get out and go outside for lunch instead of eating in front of your computer. So So yeah, that's definitely a pro of owning it.
I don't know if I really have an answer, to be honest. I've worked freelance on and off throughout my career. I own a business and I have a day job. I just look at each thing like this is the project that I'm doing right now. Even when I didn't have a job, I would get up and not having a job was my job to look for the job. So I'm more of like a lifestyle pattern person, like my habit and my pattern. It's not really, even when I've had jobs, you know, the reality is you could lose it all every day. And I think, I mean, some of that is unique to me. I've been hit by a car. I've been, you know, very sick at times. So,
I know.
yeah. I got hit by a car after having dinner with Jayson.
Don't have
And,
dinner with me. You might get hit by a car.
Yeah. Some kind of weird karma thing. I should have.
so weird.
Means we were supposed to go out after
Yeah,
dinner.
it was just so weird because we had dinner and then I got a text from her at like 7 in the morning, and she's like, "Don't be worried. I just got T-boned and I was just actually in the hospital. Here's some CAT scans and da-da-da." And she had a whole like layout of a picture that she sent to me. "Don't be worried though."
Yeah. I made a collage. and
She
I
made a
was like,
collage
"Check it
while
out."
she's like in the hospital, and I'm like, "Who is this?"
I was bored. I had my phone.
You're the most organized injured person ever.
I'm like, she's so creative that she almost like dies and makes a a collage of it.
I don't Candy Crush. I needed something to do.
I was like, what is going on? Anyway.
Great.
So yeah. So that's for me. I'm more of just a pattern person.
Okay. Thank you for your answers. Those were all great.
Great tangent.
So I'm going to have Jayson lead this one. How do you keep yourself creative when you have a mental block and have a deadline? Because time equals money.
Yes. How many of you have mental blocks? I know, right? Doesn't it suck? It's like the worst thing ever. Staring at your screen, you have the anxiety of a deadline coming up, and you know that your grade is resting on it, and you might get kicked out, and you might die. So, I mean, sorry. That's my 2 a.m. thought. I swear. That's what I get in my head. All right. But that's all going to be okay. So basically, what I try to do is if I'm having a tough time with solving a problem or a task at hand, whether it be a creative brief that comes in, or I'm just not in the mood, or I'm tired, or I'm hungover, or whatever. It's there's a moment that you can be productive, and what I found over the years is what I try to do is, even though I'm having that anxiety and feeling like I'd rather be distracted by Facebook, which is okay. You can go take a walk or do whatever, but what I try to do is really think about the project and think about aspects of that project and start to gather images or things that relate to the project. Kind of go on. I love Pinterest. I think it's a really great tool, and you just go on Pinterest and you start pulling pins and start putting up stuff and start to be inspired, and so you organize all of that, and then you start to organize the fonts that you might want to use, and maybe you get out of the office and you go to a bookstore. I know they still exist, right? But you go to a bookstore and you start looking through all the art, sections, and then you set up your next day knowing that at least you did something, at least you organized something. And then a lot of times what I'll do the following day is I'll just start putting things together, and a lot of times it's not resonating or it's still not feeling right, but I try not to spend too much time on one thing. I just continue to just create. And then hopefully you'll have like a creative director or a friend or a teacher or somebody that you can bounce ideas off of. And a lot of times what I like to do is produce a lot of different ideations of something, so that first of all, it makes it look like I did something, right? And second of all, it starts to provide a palette for somebody to critique and give me their insight. And sometimes somebody will say one thing that'll spark the idea. So you just you have to keep moving forward, keep observing, keep looking at things. Sometimes taking a walk or being quiet or not stressing into the night and making sure that you are getting enough sleep, is also very important.
Thank you. Do you guys have anything to add to that?
I mean, you touched on all the good stuff. So, we've all experienced what I like to call creative flow and then absence of creative flow when we have those mental blocks. Now, as an artist or whatever design industry you guys are in, you experience when you're so into your project and you're super focused, hours feel like minutes. You're just so completely obsessed with it. And there's ways to actually trigger that emotional connection in your brain by doing things like he suggested, like by taking a walk, by sometimes people take a tennis ball and throw them against the wall and just do really remedial tasks. Because when your body's doing one thing, you can trigger your mind to kind of like free flow without having to just be so focused or so pressured or be like, I had to do this deadline. Another good thing is definitely Pinterest. Inspiration is great, but definitely once you're spending 2-3 hours on Pinterest, you can do something called inspiration overload, where by the time you've just looked at so many things, by the time you're actually ready to like put pen to paper or mouse to Photoshop, you're drained. So that's something you have to keep in mind, and there's definitely a balance that's involved. So I would just say get out of the house, stop looking at that screen. Netflix and chill just isn't gonna work for you. It's okay to go for a walk every once in a while, especially if you have dogs or something like me. I feel like that's the only time I get out of the house nowadays anyways. But yeah, just try to break outside your comfort zone. Think about it from a different perspective, especially if you're working on client work. Maybe think about it, if you're doing a billboard, what would that person who's walking down the street think of the billboard? What would be something that they would enjoy or something that would attract them? It's just try to just be different and just think of it from as many different angles as you can.
Yeah, I'm a very visual person, so a lot of times when I'm editing or I'm working with a client, we'll come into a funk where we can't seem to get past a certain point. So what I do is sorry, I was in the snow last week. I have like Life magazine. I have a lot of older 50s, 60s, 70s type of magazines, and the photography in there it's just mind-blowing. It was all mostly black and white, and it was at the advent of color. And the imagery is just spectacular. So a lot of times if I get into a funk, I'll just go back and I'll open up an old magazine. I might have seen it 100 times. I might have seen that picture 100 times already, but for some reason it just clicks. There's an angle, or there's, just the way that it was shot just sparks something new 50 years later. And I don't know how it gets me through it, but it puts ideas into my head and it lets me just kind of move forward. You were saying Pinterest. I don't do Pinterest, I don't do Tumblr, I don't do that sort of stuff, but sometimes what I'll do is if I'm in a funk, I'll talk to colleagues or other people that I work with, and they'll spark some creative ideas or give me some ideas that might, help this client out. Or sometimes I just ask the client directly, can you give me an example of what you're seeing in your head? Because we signed a contract, we have this concept, we're halfway there, and if there's an issue there, I kind of want to know before I finish the job. I want to know going in that this isn't really what you're seeing or this isn't your vision. So why don't you give me a clue, send me an example, or show me a picture that kind of tells me what you're thinking. And that, believe it or not, gets the flow going, and it's amazing how things just pile on. All of a sudden, that whole job that might have been going wonky over here just falls right back into line. So, everybody has a different style. She does things different, he does things different. It's your own personal, whatever works for you is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. So there's not really a right answer, but, I like the idea of getting outside and clearing your mind, because I don't do that enough, and I wish I did. When I told this morning, I had a phone call and talked to 2 different people, and I told them I was on this panel, and they said, what's it about? And it's, time management. And they laughed so hard. They're like, dude, you are the worst person for time management. Who'd you pay to get on this panel? And I'm just like, it's my full-time job. This is all I've ever done. So you get things done. You have to get them done, or you're not going to get paid. So when you get into a funk, you might stay there for a day or 2, but don't let it go longer than that. Try to get back on track as soon as you can.
Yeah. I mean, it's not being a person who's a time manager. It's about being a creative who's organized. And there's such an important distinction there. Like, we're not creatives that wish we were producers. We're creatives that are organized in what we do to be able to be successful being creatives. You guys, you touched on my favorite stuff. My dog, for me, is one of my spirit totem. Taking her out is where I get massive, massive inspiration. And I think music is the other really, really big one for me. And I use music in a lot of different ways in my magic toolbox. I go see a lot of really avant-garde live music, and that gets me out of my space, and I always have paper and a pen, and people always look at me like I'm a weirdo because I'm drawing or writing or sketching or making a list. I make a lot of lists. A lot of multi-tiered, arrow bulleted, multi-bulleted, starred lists. I have a weird mind mapping system, but music is absolutely crucial. And I have my very standard, non-inspiration, but in getting it done, songs. I have my themes, which are my albums and my tunes that I put on, and it's my go music. Like, as soon as I leave here, I'm gonna finish some work, and like I'm gonna put on that go music, and it's gonna be done, and it's gonna get cranked out fast.
That
Yeah.
music thing is genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, music's good.
Yeah, I think it's good to have like a focus, like if you like Spotify, I'm just gonna jump in on top of you. Like Spotify, they have focus playlists. So like if you're writing and you can't necessarily hear words or something, they just instrumental. And then I live stream my process on a platform called Twitch. So I have what I call a hype playlist. So when like we're doing a giveaway or I'm really trying to like finish this piece up real quick, and especially because it's live on the internet, I'll go to it's called Zombie Apocalypse, and we just listen. It's like dubstep and just really gets the juices flowing. So yeah, music for sure. I need to use that more in my besides Twitch and just normally when I'm in my studio. That's genius.
And then also, tying back to the whole organization thing is giving yourself manageable, like actually looking at your week, if you have a week to do it, and actually setting forth a schedule for yourself to try and stay on schedule. Like, okay, so today, if you're like overwhelmed with how massive it is, break it down. Okay, today I'm going to do research, whatever that means. If that means like I'm going to sit and I'm going to think, or I'm going to put on music and dream a little bit, or if I'm going to go and I'm going to look at Pinterest, or I'm going to look at books, or I'm going to do this, that, the other. And then, tomorrow I will do this, and then the next day I will do this, and then the next day I will do this, and then I'll review, and then I'll, and then you have a schedule, you have an organization there, so it doesn't feel so like, if you give yourself a couple hours, because I just see, I get stuck on things pretty easily, and if I get stuck, then all of a sudden 4 hours have gone by. And I'm like, wait, but there's so many other things I could have been doing with those 4 hours. So if I'm not ready and I'm getting stuck, then I should just say, okay, I'm stuck. All right, we'll put that there, and then I can move forward with this, and this task, So that's how I try and get myself through it.
I want to jump on something that you said because I don't want to forget it because it's important.
Yeah.
You guys, books. So this is something that I'm really recognizing, like embarrassingly, just in the past few years. Everything is not on the internet.
I know, right?
Like in a not, and I knew that in like a little way, but like in an absolutely paramount, major, insane way. Like if you're doing research for a really specific type of art and design or culture, like you will find resources in major public library that you will never find on the internet. If you think about the comparison to how much music there is that you can't find digitized in the entire lexicon of all recorded music, that is how much incredible stuff, especially in the art world, it's incredible. Like I now have a dream to have like the library in my home.
It's fun. It's fun to go to the library. It's just, you're mixing up your environment. It's like, wow, what's this? It smells like books. What are those? It's so quiet in here,
It's so quiet.
Yeah, but there's an incredible library that was just built in West Hollywood that I love to go to, and it's like, it's just nice to get out of the house and be somewhere else and just have access to infinite knowledge.
And like books are tangible too. So it's like the act of turning the page instead of just staring at a screen. Like, God, you're chock full of information. I'm so glad you're on this panel.
I've got a couple advertising books from back in the 40s where they crunch when you open them up. But if you read one chapter, it's mind blown. The stuff that they were doing back there is more progressive than stuff we're doing now.
Yeah, you look back and you play on that, and then you kind of make it new and fresh. And I mean, there's really no new ideas. I mean, it's all based on, ideas, what's so cool about them is that we all build off of inspiration from others. So it's like going back and looking back at how they did could possibly spark something new, and you just make that your own and new. So.
All great answers. Okay, so Kim, I'm going to go back to you, and I'm going to ask you, how do you manage continuing to be creative and also your day job? So most people have a day job, but then they want to do personal creative things. Now, we've already heard that you like to create in hospitals when you're under stress.
That's boredom. Yeah, I make because otherwise I get bored. I'm like a shark. I gotta keep swimming or I'll die. And I'm not ready to die. I've got a couple projects I gotta finish first. That was so sincere, actually. I'm lucky in the case that like my day job is very creative. So I'm a creative professional as well as a working artist when people ask. Like, I don't have a job where I like punch a clock and then like a thing comes and I hit the button and then the next one comes. So, you know, it's both, and that's a blessing and a curse. You know, it's a blessing because I really enjoy my day job. At no point in the foreseeable future is there going to be like, now I've got the art project and I'm never going to be in advertising again. Like, I love advertising. I love the psychology of design, and it's what I gravitate towards, and it uses all the fun, weirdo technology that I like. But with that, you know, there's a lot of, you know, burnout that comes with trying to produce artwork when, you know, you've been sitting at the computer working all day. You don't want to come home and then sit at the computer working all night. So it's very, very difficult to manage those two things. And for me, you know, carving out time and a space to do that is really, really important, as well as having a job that understands that that is a very important part of who I am. Because a lot of jobs, which you'll learn when you get out into the field, very rarely will somebody say, for today, this is what you are done at this point. This is end time. It is an unfinishable pile of work when you have a job. It's never done. There's an endless, you could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's more work typically for people like us than will ever be completed, because more just keeps coming. So as one thing is finished, another comes. So having folks that recognize that you're gonna stop checking email at about 6:30, and you're gonna go do something else. You have a shoot, you're doing this, you're doing that. Or you worked all day on that Saturday, but you had a shoot plan, so you're gonna shoot on Tuesday. You know, that balance is really important, and you have to kind of fight and take that space back for you. You know, time management, organizing, and making those appointments with yourself is really big. And like I said, I'm a kooky list maker. And whenever I make a work list, I immediately also make a personal list. Because if I only have one, then that's the only stuff that I'm gonna do. I'm gonna completely let everything else fall to the wayside. Even things like, you know, laundry, breathe, like really average stuff. I need it on there.
Yeah. Laundry's good.
This is the best.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't smell.
I mean, like, so I was working full-time and then also being a freelance hand lettering artist for about 4 years. And as of, I think, September, October, I am a full-time freelance hand lettering artist. I had no idea I could make a living drawing letters. So crazy.
Yeah.
But I was a full-time web designer, you know, normal 40-plus hours a week. It was crazy. It's a lot to manage. And there is such thing as creative burnout when you're being creative all day and you got to be creative all night. It's hard, but at the same time, there's something called the overlap technique, guys. And it's the best way, if your dream is to have your own freelance business or to start your own company, you need to be able to have a long game mindset and not just be like, oh, I just need to make rent or I just need to do this. That's why you have a day job. Your day job pays your bills, so that way when you get those passion projects and you get those client inquiries in, you can be excited about it. Don't just say yes to every project that comes your way. Like, if you're gonna be doing moonlighting and then doing it during your lunch break and doing it on the weekends, it's gotta be something that you care about. And so that way you can build the right portfolio so you can be like me and actually be able to quit your day job and do your own thing.
I love that. I'm gonna tell a story for my people on the internet. So I have this really incredibly talented friend, Patrick, and the entire, you know, first few years that we knew each other, he had a pretty rad job. He was a writer and wrote for a pretty big website that did deals and, you know, travel stuff and cool stuff like that. And by all accounts, this was like a really rad job and really cool. But, you know, Pat is this really talented writer, very passionate about design and art and music. And this dude would be up, and it would creep me out because I would get emails from him every single day at like between like 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. And he'd be like, oh, I'm up working. I'm doing an interview with a guy in Shanghai. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Like, I've got a story going here, a story going there. He still does it. And so recently, maybe about a year ago, he got this big opportunity in New York to go and become a writer and focus on design full time. And it was this huge jump and this huge leap for him. And he just picked up and changed his life. And he's an older guy. You know, this is somebody who's senior level in their field, in their career, and who totally wants to pivot the industry that they're using their talent and their gift in. And he dedicated those few hours every morning, you know, like going to the gym. He worked that part and that muscle and that brain, and it was recognized. And now he's just like gangbusters. And even as far as I am, there's a lot of mornings where I absolutely do not want to get up and write emails about my art project or get up and work on some animation before I go into the office. And I think about him and I'm like, come on, like this guy did this every day for years. Like you got to do it. You got to rally and you got to motivate. And, you know, oftentimes I say like, I'm a wizard, I can make time. And the truth is you can, you know, if you feel like you don't have enough time, delete your Facebook account. If you feel like you don't have enough time, you know, there's something in there. There's something going on. You know, you've got a habit, you've got a sacrifice you're not willing to make, and own that, because there's nothing stopping you most of the time other than you.
I felt that right here.
This is my full-time job. I don't have a day job per se. This is all I've ever done, and it's pretty much all I know. So I'm constantly trying to teach myself, and I'm trying to learn. When I went to school here, it was 16 millimeter and 35 millimeter film. Then I got out of this job, went to a full-time job for 7 years, and it was shooting Betacam. So I was learning another new tool. Then I went to Mini DV. Then I went to P2. Then I went to Red. Now you're getting into this VR type of camera stuff. So for me, I'm constantly trying to teach myself, and I'm trying to find the time to not necessarily learn how to shoot because I know how to shoot, but it's learning the new gear. So it kind of gets tedious at times. You know, you're trying to learn stuff yourself. You're trying to read books. You're trying to collaborate with other people. So you got to take some time out to kind of have fun with it. So I've got an 11-year-old boy and a 12-year-old boy. So what we do is we go out and we build rigs. We build camera boxes for rocket launches. My sons have helped me build these remote control systems. So I try to make it fun to keep the job aspect of it. You know, it's still work, but if I can incorporate my boys into this, you know, we go wakeboarding, we go snowboarding, we shoot with GoPros. I let them play. So at the same time I'm learning my trade and learning different angles and learning how to light certain things, I'm also having great family time. So if you can incorporate it, if it's your full-time job, don't always work. Don't burn yourself out because it'll happen really quick. So just try to have fun with your job too.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things that I learned throughout my career, because I started super young, I was 20 years old, and when I got out into the industry, I was like, yeah, you know, I was all working till 2 a.m., 3 a.m., getting up really early. That's all I did. And then, you know, as you start getting older, you're like, I kind of like a little bit of sleep and, you know, kind of want to go see a movie or, you know, then you start feeling guilty about that, right? Because then I remember it was funny because freelance one time I was done with my work at 4 and I walked out at 7. I didn't have anything else to do. And I asked them if they wanted me to do anything and they said no. So I was like, fine, I'll Facebook for the rest of the day. And then I walked out at 7 and somebody turned to me and said, banker's hours? And I was like, no, I leave and I go home. And so, you know, as you get older, your priority changes. I think what's interesting about freelance versus full-time, I mean, this is my longest full-time gig I've had in my career, owning my company. And obviously, there's no quitting my company. There's no leaving my company because it's my company. So it's been nonstop for 9 years. And you realize that in this industry, you're in it for, you have to pace yourself. Like you don't want to sprint or you'll get really burnt out and tired. So you have to pace yourself. So I have to take time for myself. Sometimes I'll take a Friday off or work from home or work from a cafe or I'll just switch it up. I'm still working, but I just have to switch it up or I just become stagnant and stale or slow or tired or uninspired. You know, it's really important to keep that inspiration going. So the nice part about freelance, which now I think back and I'm like, oh, I kind of miss freelance. I used to hate it because if you didn't have work for 2 weeks, again, the 2 a.m. sort of, you know, I'm not worthy anymore comes in your mind. You're like, nobody likes me anymore. I haven't worked for 2 weeks, you know. But the nice thing is that for not working for 2 weeks, I had 2 weeks for myself. And I would just like do mundane things like my laundry or go to a cafe and hang out or go for a hike. And I realized that I really loved that balance of having 2 weeks for myself and then going back and doing a really crazy hard project for 2 months and then taking another 2 weeks off to go travel, and then come back and do another project. And what's difficult with a full-time job like I have now is that it's nonstop. There's always problems. There's always something happening. So I've made it a point each year to take 2 weeks consecutively off. And the nice part about owning a company is I can kind of do whatever I want. So I could be like, okay, I'm going to take Friday off, and nobody's like, that's coming off of your vacation or whatever. But that is the nice part of owning the company, is that I can do that if I need to. But what I do make a point is I take a trip every year, and I put my phone away, and I don't answer any texts or emails, so I kind of leave it behind. This year I went to Burning Man, which was amazing. If y'all don't know what it is, look it up on the internet. It's really fun. It's not what you think it is. It's pretty cool, but it's like, a whole art festival. And it's truly life-changing and inspiring, but I came back like completely renewed and excited to get back to work with a new perspective on my reality when I got back, because it's this utopian 2-week experience that will never exist again. So the same in the next time. So it's pretty amazing.
Thanks.
So Burning Man.
So Burning Man. So we've talked about organizing your mind creatively. We've talked about balancing your life a little bit. Are there any specific technology or software that you guys use to manage your time, to schedule your time? Like, do you keep a calendar?
Oh yeah.
Analog, digital? How do you guys
calendars.
go about
Oh my God, so
communicating
many
your
calendars.
schedules?
Yeah, I mean, so I just started being like super transparent about my business, especially since I'm really trying to take it seriously. So I actually share income reports of everything I make, all my expenses. And I looked it up last month, and I spent $600 on applications alone just for time management. Now we're talking about things like, so I'll use something like Buffer to schedule out my social media strategy for Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And then I'll use something like Harvest, which I think is pretty popular among our industry especially, which is great for like invoicing, for tracking your time, being able to organize your projects, see your schedule, and just make sure that the proposal that the client signed, you're actually like sticking to those hours and not going over, and actually being paid what you're worth. There's just a ton of different things. I'm trying to think all the other ones off the top of my head. Oh, then Google Apps, just because I prefer to use Google for everything, so that way I can also use Google Hangouts for my meetings. I like old school Skype too. I always prefer, since I'm in my home and the majority of my clients are pretty much overseas, or a lot of the UK especially happening right now, just be able to do a lot of video conferencing. But if you're gonna go for one app for time management and for invoicing and all that fun stuff, I would definitely recommend Harvest the most.
I use that.
Yeah, Harvest is great.
Yeah, for my business, I use Harvest, and we used it at one of the smaller shops that I was at years ago. It's pretty solid. I think whatever you use, you want to make sure that it's open and it interfaces with everything else. And for me, that's one of the reasons that I went with that, is that it works with my accounting software for the very wonderful lady who does all my taxes. And that's the other big thing that comes along with organizing tools, is getting people to do the jobs that are not your job. Hiring an accountant and finding a lawyer were the two most important, biggest things for me to be a professional, successful working artist. Not as a business person, not in my commercial art, but in my personal and my passion stuff, to really legitimize what I was doing. I'm not interested personally in like being like a craft fair table artist. Like, I'm looking to do big galleries. I'm looking to do commission work. I'm looking to do installations, and it's a big ticket, and there's a lot of money on the line. It's very difficult. And it's very hard to manage that, and there's typically a lot of people on the team to make it happen. So the tools for me needed to be really solid, and I don't have the time to be the accountant. I don't want to be the accountant. There's really great, smart people who do that. And typically, if I have a big project that I'm working on, I'll find somebody who's going to be the producer. I want someone to tell me what to do. I think that's an important part of being a creative, is letting go of some of that control about being successful with it, and finding people who are really like a great producer, and somebody who's going to give you a schedule and tell you what needs to happen, when it needs to happen, communicate with the client, get you the assets that you need to keep you doing, is the most vital, incredible person to the team, because they're the way station that keeps the connective tissue between all the different technical and creative people. So that's been the really biggest thing. There was a tool that I used from a software perspective for a long time called Action Method that got discontinued, and it broke my little heart. And the funny thing was, is it started out as a paper product for doing lists and like paper old school management from Behance, and then they turned it into a digital platform. And then I don't think there were enough of us that were like double, like print list and online list, so they discontinued it. And then the funny thing is that I've kind of recreated it with Google Apps on my own. And it's really finding your own style. So if you're like a crazy calendar person, then that's what you do. I am, but not everybody is. So one of the things that I did once at work was I sent somebody some documents. I've done this more than once. And then I booked a calendar request for them and the location of it, and it said, hey, I sent you those documents, and the location of the meeting was in their mind, because I wanted them to take some time to look at those documents. And I thought, because I wish someone would do that for me, I thought, that's so clever. What a great thing. And they were like, please don't ever do that again. Like, do not ever block my mind to do your task. And I was like, you were open. Your calendar was yeah, like you did not. You were open. Like you were open at that time. So you got to figure out what works for you. But my calendar most days is completely blocked, because if it's not a meeting, I'm going to schedule the other stuff that I have to do. All my stuff gets scheduled. If I need to go and look at cats, I go do, like, that's scheduled activity.
Yeah, there's actually an app called Calendly. I think it's Calendar, then the extension's .ly. It's free to use, and if you book if you actually do schedule your time in your calendar, it'll actually show up what times are available, so that way instead of you having to go back and forth with your client, be like, oh, what about 3? Oh, what about 1? Or what about Tuesday at 5? They could just go to the calendar and see when you're open and book it. It's amazing. It's such a great. I just discovered this like 2 weeks ago, so I'm like telling the masses about Calendly. It's like so great.
I live off of calendars. If you have close to 100 employees, I don't know how you do it with schedule and all that sort of stuff. I have enough problems of my own, but I have a calendar that's basically set for the next year, because like I said, I shoot a lot of sports. I have NFL, I have Major League Baseball, all those kind of sports. As soon as the schedule comes out and there's games or events that take place in Florida, I'm usually the guy that they assign to those. So I know my schedule 6-8 months in advance. Problem is I've got 2 boys. It's 3 months off this summer. What am I going to do? I can't shoot the sports and watch the boys at the same time. So not only am I taking care of my schedule and their schedule, but I have to find photographers and friends that I trust, that are my colleagues. Can you cover for me? I've got this week. So I'm trying to set up their schedule as well. So just keep that in mind, that when you have projects and you're going to get busy, sometimes you're going to get too busy. So calendars you got to set yourself up ahead of time and know what's coming up ahead of time, so that you don't screw yourself or screw the client by saying, oh, I didn't put that on my calendar, I forgot to do it, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Calendars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like just remembering all of these different software as we're talking. I'm just gonna keep talking forever. Calendars, best answer ever.
Calendars.
Winner of the panel, guys. Okay.
Google Cal is what we use.
Yeah, Google Calendar. I mean,
Yeah.
so sometimes I think it could be like a little intimidating to like set an actual schedule, because for me, like I'm home alone, trying to figure out my stuff. Maybe that's like a little too intimidating. Like, oh, maybe I can't promise that from 1 to 3 I'm going to hand letter this new poster. So maybe using something like the Todoist app, which is also free, you just can have an actual to-do list. And I'm at the point now where like if it doesn't go in my Todoist app, I'm not going to do it, because I have like 30 things that I had, like little things, like instead of just being like, make poster. I have something like make thumbnails for poster, make sketches, break it down into smaller, more doable, actionable items, instead of giving you this like big, huge project that you're supposed to get done in that one day because it's on your calendar.
Realistic. Actually, I was thinking about this on the plane ride over, because I've noticed myself these days feeling less productive. I feel like I'm consumed by so many different tasks and so many different projects. I try to tackle them all at once. And I think that's been an incorrect way for me to be thinking. And the only reason why I say that is because I read an article about it. This isn't an epiphany I had, but the article just happened to come across, I think it was on Huffington Post. But basically, if you look at a grid and multitasking, I think we're all used to multitasking now. So it's like you're thinking about one thing, and then your friend pops up on your phone, and then Facebook comes up, and then you get wrapped up into Facebook, and then you go over to Twitter, and then you go over here, and then you come back to the task you were doing, and then you have 5 emails that you had started, and that kind of stuff. Do you guys do that? Because I know I do it.
Go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden it's like you get nothing done, right? And then you're like, shit, I forgot. Excuse me, sorry. Shoot. Oh darn, I forgot. All these other, I always get reamed, by the way, because I have such a potty mouth here, and then all my friends from Full Sail are always picking on me. So anyway, I'm trying
We're
to clean
live
up.
tweeting about it right now.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, no F-bombs have been dropped just yet. Anyway, so basically, the way this article said that we should be doing things, which makes complete sense. It's like, put away your email, right? All right. Or from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I'm going to work on my emails. From 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., I'm going to, do this, and then I'm going to take my lunch, which is going to be an hour, and then from here to here, like 1 to 4, I'm going to schedule time to really think and research, and I'm putting my phone away, I'm not looking at my messages, and then, you will find that you'll be more productive. This is when my earphones are coming in, in my ears. I'm putting on my productive music, and don't talk to me because this is I'm going in my zone. I like to call it, I'm going under. And then after that, so I think that's the way I'm going to start approaching my job now, because I start to feel bad because I'm like, I'm not being productive. I don't feel like I'm getting anything done. And I realize it's just because I have so many things to do, I can't focus on one thing, and I'm trying to get them all done at the same time. I was like, do I need Adderall? Like, do I need something that, is like a
That's what I do.
ADD, right? I
Not
have
the Adderall. No.
No, but I have-
Scheduling. Yeah, no. What you're talking
like,
about.
I have ADD,
No.
Do I need to be medicated?
So far.
No. But yeah, it's very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And I think people, the expectation for that, the immediacy of that response, it goes away.
Yeah.
And I don't even really talk about it. Like, I don't even tell anybody, like, I'm going under. Like, no, I
just
I
do
don't
it.
respond within 4 seconds.
I know.
You
this,
know, like, and
this darn
people, they don't necessarily expect that you're going to.
Yeah.
When most people send an email, it's a message in a bottle most of the time.
Right.
They don't
Texting.
really think you're going to respond immediately. And
Yeah.
if they really did want you to respond immediately, email probably wasn't the best call.
Right.
Yeah, they just call you.
Correct.
Remember when you
Or
used to
text.
use the cell phone to call people?
I mean, how
Good
often do you
times.
talk to people on the phone? I don't.
I'm going to fax you. Do you have a fax machine, Jayson?
That'd be amazing. Do you have a pager? I'm totally going to page you.
Left it in my
I bet
van.
you guys have a fax machine over there.
I'm going to page you.
Go back to pagers. So as we know, all of these are students. They have their daytime job, which is school, which is demanding. Or do you have any suggestions for them as far as organizing their time when they're not in class, besides playing games? To be productively creative. They need to be productive.
Is that what you call
So-
partying, playing games?
Playing games
I
is
honestly
super
don't remember having any
productive.
Drinking.
time while going to the school. I'm trying to you just don't buy Netflix or Hulu and just do your own thing. And like you said, turn your phone off, turn your notifications off.
I mean, my dad scared the crap out of me when I came here. He was like, I got lucky. I came here at a time when it was relatively affordable, but
Oh, yeah.
and I got 3 degrees for a really good price. It was just when they were
BOGO?
Huh?
BOGO?
Yeah, I literally I came here in like '94 and signed up basically, and I was like a sophomore in high school, so I got a really great deal. But anyway, my dad was like, I'm going to pay for it, and if you party or you do anything, and I find out and you're not, in class, then I'm going to take it away from you. So I didn't party at all. All I did, I had nerd alert.
Here we go.
100% perfect attendance across 3 programs, and valedictorian of one, and then salutatorian of another, and then all course director awards.
Come on. Out of control.
I was that really annoying guy that asked all the questions in class, and everybody's rolling their eyes, right? But I just felt like my time here was so important that it was more important to do that than to I mean, I went to a couple parties. I got really sick off of vodka one time. It wasn't pretty. But then I was like, you know, that it was so few and far between those times that I did that. And I was just always studying. I was always in a lab. I was always here trying to soak up, you know, school, because this is the time. It was so exciting to me to be doing this. Like, this is what I was meant to do. And there was nobody that was going to stop me, you know, from doing this. So I would like do extracurricular projects. And honestly, the only thing that got me hired, because my reel was interesting when I came out of here. This was before they taught you how to do a reel, back in the late 90s. But like I came out with a project that I did here that was kind of like a real world, like, you know, like the Real World MTV reality show, and I did it on my class, and I directed it and put it together and got no sleep, and it was completely extracurricular. And that's actually the piece that got me hired. It wasn't my student work, it was that piece. They saw potential in my editing abilities and my timing and rhythm, and they were really impressed that I coordinated the whole thing. So that was the one thing that got me, you know, to be able to do what I do now. You know, I mean, I literally moved to LA with no money, an '87 Dodge Caravan, and like like wearing Tommy Hilfiger. I don't know, and a fish sticker on the back of my car, and you know, and I had nothing, and I walked into like places like I was somebody, and the very first place I walked into, they laughed at my reel, and that was devastating because I really, really wanted to work there. And it's funny because that same person who had laughed at my reel, I go against her all the time as a company now, and I always beat her. Yeah. So I'm like, who's laughing now? Anyway, but we don't go there, but we try to keep it pretty. But you know, it's super important to just stay focused and, you know, really get the most that you can out of your education here.
You chose to come here.
Yeah.
You're here.
You're here.
And online students, you're here too. Just because you're not on this campus doesn't mean that you're not part of this same mentality. This isn't just an expensive decision. This is an important decision. The only difference between me and you is time.
Yep.
You know, like that's. Would you stop hyping me and let me talk?
No, I'm just saying. I'm agreeing with you. Yep.
You're
like,
being your
yeah.
sidekick.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're in like doing the rap game.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Are we beatboxing now? Let's do this.
Oh my God!
So
if we had
great.
dance moves right now, this panel would be out of control.
Let's get ready to rumble.
I can handle you.
But you know, it's a big deal. You know, if y'all wanted to be in a fraternity or on a sports team or a sorority, you probably should have gone to another school. You know, you chose to come here because this place is special and unique. This is the alternative education model that all those other schools are trying to do unsuccessfully because they're not pumping out the industry heavy hitters that this place has. They're not providing the technology that this place has. They teach it in another degree and not yours. Go find that course director and learn it. No one is going to give you the time or the attention or the resources as openly and readily as you have now, because the only money on the line here is yours. So get it. Mm-hmm. You know, like when I went to school here, I was like a level 11 vegan, and I spent all day Sunday cooking all my food because I couldn't eat anywhere that I went, and I baked all my own bread, and I would ride my little bike to school and work, and then I would ride my little bike back to my apartment and knead my bread, and then I would ride back and work for 4 more hours. And I went on like that because I just needed to make sure that there was food. I didn't care what I ate or, you know, really when it happened. It just had to happen at some point. So that stew got made, whatever it was, and it was there. You know, when you want it that bad, you'll make time for it, and you'll figure out how to fit in the things that you want to do into your schedule. Yeah. So if people are giving you a hard time, they're like, oh man, come to this party, like it's going to be a great time. Like, that's, you know what, like I'm in the middle of something really cool right now and I'm inspired, and I've got a party 3 years from now that I want to go to. Mm-hmm. You know, and if they don't get that, they're not going to be at that party.
Yeah.
And it's sad, but that's, you know, that's what happens.
I mean, don't also feed into the negative energy. I know that there's a lot of negativity when. Here's the thing. This is the secret to life. I'm going to give it to you right now. I know it. Okay, you ready for it? And a drum roll. It's all on you, right? You create your own destiny. You create your own future. It's easy to point your finger at like, well, Full Sail didn't give me this, and my mom didn't give me that, and this didn't happen, and what was me. But really, it's all on you to make your own success. And what I would think when I would sit there, I mean, I started subscribing to the negative energy when I was first here, and I started complaining, and I was like, wait, you know what? I'm spending more time complaining than learning. So maybe I should just start learning than complaining, and then maybe actually I'll get something out of it. And maybe I should get to know my teachers, despite the fact that's the unpopular thing to do because people think I'm brown-nosing. But I wasn't. I was actually genuinely interested in this craft that I was building. And I ended up getting my education plus, thousands of dollars more based on my attitude and then also, just wanting it and being hungry for it. But you know what, guys? That's like life, I don't want anybody in my studio who's negative. I don't want anybody in my studio who's complaining or not into it or afraid to ask questions, because there's a lot of money on the line. I only want the best in my studio. And the best means the best attitude, the best outlook. They're hungry, they're curious, they're communicative, they're not scared. Those are the people that I want to be working with, especially late nights. If I have to spend a lot of time with y'all, you better be fun, number one. Number two, you better not complain. And I don't want eye rolls if you have to animate a logo that you don't want to animate. I want you to animate that logo and show me you can do it. And then maybe I'll give you a big project. Until you prove yourself, then, prove yourself. But here, it's just so easy to get caught up in the BS. And this, guys, is fantasy land. This is the best. I come back here because I remember it was a time when it was easy. I know y'all think it's hard, but this is like the time of being excited and inspired and hungry for knowledge. This is preparing you to go out to battle,
This is just the beginning. Like,
This
it's
is
going to
just
get
the
harder.
beginning. Oh, yeah,
Like,
no.
a ton harder.
Okay,
So,
that's been wonderful.
I was just like, can we talk about it more?
I know we could sit here and talk for the rest of the afternoon, but we do have a few minutes
Yes.
left for questions. So online people, there's an online monitor that is going to try to get to your questions, and then if you have questions here, if you would raise your hand, Miss Annie will come over with a microphone and allow you to ask those questions.
To the mic.
Okay, thank you very much. My question is, when you guys got like everything already organized, like the way you explain us, doing the things like it's supposed to be, as soon as you finish that creative thing that you like building, what do you guys can like tell me that is good to protect my art that I did, If it's for a client or if it's something for me individually, like what is the type of things that you do to register? Let's say whatever design you do for a T-shirt or logo.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've been hearing that, if it's working for hire, then he has the rights. Sometimes it gets in the air, or probably it's just normal person that asking for something, and probably it came out cool, and you don't really have like the rights of it. How can you help me with that?
So is your question more of maybe a legal, how to protect yourself and your artwork?
I mean,
How
contracts.
have you done that?
I can answer that quickly, I think, in a few different ways. So there's a variety of different kinds of contracts, and you deal with this a lot. In
Yeah.
your field, is royalty and rights.
I'll talk about that as soon as you're
perpetuity and
done.
multi-usage, and this came up on another panel that we were on.
Yeah.
And that's the same for illustrators. I work with a guy who's a phenomenal illustrator sometimes. I asked him to do some branding, and the client that we were working on, he wanted to get royalties on merchandise. And you know what? He should get them. And at the end of the day, the client wanted to own it flat out, and it didn't sit, so the project didn't happen. But if you've got art that you believe in and you care about, there's a certain push and pull between protecting it and then getting it out there, and money versus impact. So you have to really feel in your heart when it's your art, when it's non-commercial art, of what's more important and what means a lot to you. The example that I gave in another panel that we were on is the Great album, Danger Mouse's Great album. #1 most downloaded album of all time for no money, illegally. If you're not aware of it, you gotta listen to it, it's phenomenal. And you know, had he not done that album, I don't think there would have been a Gnarls Barkley. You know, that album, which he did for no money, which with zillions of downloads that I listen to all the time because it's phenomenal, like that made him on the global stage. So if he wanted to protect it and copyright it and fight it, not let it be on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, then he wouldn't have become this like mega sensation thing where celebrities want him to do all their tracks and all that kind of stuff. You know, so there's a push and pull there, which, you know, do you value the exposure? Is it getting your work out there? Is it propelling you onto a place where you would never otherwise be, in conversations you would otherwise never be invited to? Or the inversion to that, I have a good friend in Chicago who made this awesome Bears t-shirt, really great, she's an illustrator, and you know, she made it, she put it out, she put it online, and then someone was producing it as a t-shirt. And she was devastated. They're selling them $20, $30, all this kind of stuff. And it took her about a year, and she fought it, and she won. You know, and there was no amount of registering that or saving it that would have prevented these people from taking it and then doing their evil deeds with it. If you want to spend your time focusing on evil deeds, especially early on in your career, it's going to drive you crazy. It's going to keep you up at night forever. You can't catch everybody all the time. So figure it out.
Yeah, I'm going to try to give you a 20-minute answer in about 1 minute.
Can I interrupt just for a second? I'm sorry. I know Kim has an appointment, so can we give her a hand? She has to run out of here real quick.
You do?
Yeah.
Hi, guys.
Miss you.
Hi, Kim.
Hey, all right, let me give you the like a 1 minute answer while she saunters away. Let's focus here. I shoot for a lot of wire services, and there's 3 different types of contracts that they have me under. I'm not a full-time staffer, so I go to as a contract photographer. So I have a hybrid contract, a work-for-hire contract, or just a contributor contract. The contributor contract, I basically put stuff, I shoot anything I want to, and I put it up onto the wire service. We have a 50-50 split. Anything that they sell comes back to me. So that's one method. The stringer contract is when there's an actual event that they want me to shoot for them and they want to own the rights to it. They pay me a flat fee, depending on what it is, and I give them 20 images. They own those images outright. The hybrid contract is a little bit different. That's the third contract that I have. And what that enables me to do is they pay me a smaller fee. They don't pay me the full rate, but they pay me a smaller fee, and they get 10 images that they get to basically license and keep themselves. I could put up 100, 200 images of the game. Anything after that 10th image is owned by me, and we do a split. So I get royalties. There's stuff that I shot 10 years ago I'm still getting paid on. So depending on what you want to do for this client, you know, you let them know, is this going to be something that you're going to own at the end of the day, or is this something that I'm going to own at the end of the day? So that's what the first thing that you need to determine. Once you own these images, what I do is basically take a DVD and I put thousands of images from different jobs onto this DVD and I mail it to the Copyright Office. It's $35. And what they do is they take that DVD in the envelope, they stamp it, they send you your little UPC code so they know that that's what's on that disc. If somebody steals your images, if they steal it, they just use it on like a little local website or something, it's not that big a deal. You're going to get stuff stolen if it's on the internet. We just know that's going to happen. But if an advertising agency takes a picture of Dwight Howard or A-Rod that I've got, and they start using that for promotional purposes, and I say, you need to pay me a fee or I'm basically going to sue you. That's the way it works. I've copywritten this. They're not going to care unless you show them that it was copywritten. You've got proof that you send it into the Copyright Office, and at that point, when their lawyer knows that it's a copywritten image, they're going to pay you whatever fee you want to do. So, like I said, if you put it on the internet, it's as good as gone. I've had thousands of images stolen. I see them all the time. I do a lot of boxing, and I had an offer to buy an iPhone case with my photo on it that I never gave them the rights to use it. I've seen that case sold 20 or 30 times. So, like I said, you just going in, if you want your image protected, I would go ahead and copyright it. That's basically the straight up answer.
What other questions do we have?
Hi, I'm Edgar, a recent DAD grad. My question is, I know you guys talk about organizing stuff on your calendars, all your stuff for the day, but do you find yourself trying to organize enough time in case something goes wrong with a project?
I mean, when you do timelines for jobs, you have to put in a buffer time. Like, especially me being a freelancer, like if I get sick, I don't have vacation days. You know, like I'm responsible for this deadline, and it happens. Like I had to take 2 weeks off to plan for this Hall of Fame thing and to present my presentation. So it's just, I always add a little bit. I always add 20% to my production timelines just in case something horrible happens, or maybe an amazing opportunity that they had a crazy deadline that I could, you know, take that and also be able to make my accomplishments to my other clients and prioritize that. So I think just buffer time is probably the best thing you could do. What about you guys?
I mean, for us, when we schedule projects, it's pretty straightforward. If it's a month-long project, we make sure that the client gets 3 reviews, and then anything after that is attached a pretty hefty fee if they want to change it. So anytime you start throwing around zeros adding to the budget, then that usually makes the change go away, which is good. So I think that, you know, you just have to schedule it in, and then if something goes wrong, for us at least, we're able to extend the schedule because we've agreed upon a timeline up front, and if that goes beyond the timeline, then there's more money involved. Otherwise, we need to either reassess the creative, what's taking a lot of time, especially if that's a client request that's above and beyond. If that's on us as a studio, then we have to figure it out. So that's something going wrong in our pipeline, so therefore the client shouldn't have to pay for it. Therefore, people are working all night and weekends to get it done, which we don't like to do. So,
Yeah, you always try to build in overages if you can, and the upfront conversations that you have with your client are very important because you need to talk about what if there's a rain day, what if there's, you know, an act of God, something bad that happens, what if I'm stuck in a different state for a job I do and I need to get to another location and I can't get there. So you have to kind of anticipate things that could go wrong and kind of plan for those ahead of time if you can.
Hello, my name is Anthony, and I was wondering, were you always naturally organized, or was there a moment in your life that caused you to want to become more organized?
no.
I mean, yeah, okay, so when I first went freelance, I was like, woohoo! And I was not organized at all, but at the same time, like, the less organized you are, the less money in the bank, and I was having, you know, trouble paying my bills, and it was like, ooh. But so not being able to pay your bills is a pretty realization, like, I need to do something differently. But yeah, you just learn lessons. Like, as a person and with your experience, you're going to evolve over time, but take the time to reflect and be like, what could I have done differently? Don't keep making the same mistakes over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Like, your contracts are going to get longer and longer and longer the more time you're working with clients, because things are going to come up that you would have never even thought of before. So it's just something you have to kind of reflect back on. Like for me, like I said earlier, I do a monthly progress report. That forces me to look at that month, what went right, what went wrong, and what could I do to be better in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the tax game is fun too. If you're going to be doing quarterlies, things of that nature, you need to plan ahead. You need to know that I got X amount of money coming in this month, but it's already spent because I've got to pay taxes, or I've got to front myself. I know I'm going to have to take a trip, and I'm going to have to take luggage and cargo and rental car and hotel. And if you don't have the money sitting in the bank to be able to pay for that, you can't do that gig. So it kind of forces you to plan ahead. Like I said, I'm horrible at planning. I don't have, my time is all over the place. But after doing things for a certain way for certain years, you just kind of fall into place. So you'll eventually get there. But you do have to plan. You have to plan ahead, and you have to plan for emergencies too.
I mean, I think I've always been punctual, for sure. Obviously, I could follow a schedule. But if it was any indication of what my place used to look like when I was in college, it wasn't necessarily the most tidy. Over time, I've learned how to become more organized, and that includes in my own home and personal life. I mean, now I can't go to work with my bed not made. You know what I mean? Like, that's being organized. It's like I have to have a routine. And it sounds silly, but it's like keeping your home tidy, keeping a regular routine at home definitely helps, you know, keep you organized, and just planning out is always good for everybody, just so that it's not a project that is never ending. You know, you have to kind of sit down and really plan it out and figure it out and give yourself deadlines. So no, and now yes, I'm very organized.
We have a question from Margaret, who's in computer animation and watching online. And she wants to know whether you notice a difference between online and campus students, either staying organized or being hired in each of your industries.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I've ever, if it's ever been indicated to me on somebody's resume if they were educated online or on campus, to be honest. So I think it's just really based on the individual and how I don't think there's any differentiation between the two. I think it's more difficult to be online because it's easier to get distracted, than be on campus. But so props to the online students for hanging in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And getting it done. Because, it's so easy to go, oh, I gotta go vacuum, or, I need to go watch a movie or whatever. It's so much easier. But here you have to pay attention. You have to be in class. Some people do pay attention. Some people sleep. But, so yeah.
Yeah, it used to be coming up back when I graduated in the 90s. We were shooting beta cams. So when you did an edit, you would have to actually go to the machine. You'd have to mix tape. Here's your beta tape. You'd have to take it to a player to watch it or put it on VHS. The industry that I'm in now is more digitally. It's more photography related. So I'm able to, via the internet, Dropbox. I don't have to be in a physical location. They don't have to be in front of me showing me their portfolio. They can show me stuff online. They can email me stuff. They can show me examples of stuff that they did. They don't have to be right in front of me. So I don't really think. I mean, if I was here at this school, if I was going here today, I would break every button. I would push every single button in this joint, and I would know what every single thing does. And I would, the powers that be aren't going to like this, but I would tear that camera apart just so I know how to put it back together. Because it's on their dime, it's not on my dime. You know what I'm saying? I would break it because you're in the field and things happen and you have to have a quick fix, whether it be a computer, whether it be a light, whether it be audio. I mean, I would tear it apart. And that's like the disadvantage to somebody that's learning at home, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think the people that are at home almost have to struggle just a little bit more because it's not hands-on, so they have to research it just a little bit more, and that could be an advantage.
Did anybody take film by chance? Film and video? No? Anyway, I ran into... Oh, we have one? Well, I actually ran into a project where I asked for Full Sail students, graduates, to help with a music video I was shooting. And there's this girl who came in, and she was very quiet, kind of meek or whatever. And so the sound guy canceled, and I went through film, and I know y'all learned sound. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, perfect, I can have her do it. And I'm like, do you remember the sound class? And she's like, didn't really pay attention. And I was like, well, you should have. Here it is. And I gave it to her.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys should be paying attention to everything. Even if you don't think you're going to use it, you might. And obviously I didn't, she did a pretty good job. But
I mean, I think from an application standpoint, it's not going to say online Full Sail University. It's just going to say Full Sail. At the end of the day, education or how you got your education isn't as important than the work in your portfolio.
Right.
Your real world experience, your actual projects, whether you're visual or digital or whatever, it's that's what the clients are attracted to. Can you do this job? No one's going to care if the content's the same. There's no difference really between whether you're here or there on a piece of paper that's being presented to your potential employer.
Great answers. So we have to wrap this up. I want to thank Jayson and Dina and Alex for sharing their experience with us. And you guys have a great day.